Welcome to another edition of the NCBI Podcast. I'm June Tindley, Head of Communications and Advocacy with NCBI. And today I have the pleasure of having a chat with Sinead Kilcawley and her daughter Niamh, who are both based in Waterford. And delighted to have you join me today. And I look forward to our chat. I hope everything is going well so far today for you.
Great, and thanks for having us. Appreciate it, June. Thank you.
Great. And I suppose, as I always start, for the benefit of our listeners, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Okay. Niamh, do you want to start?
Okay, so I am blind. I have been blind basically since the age of 9 because I was diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was 8 years old. And then after that, basically my vision started to deteriorate, and then I had a surgery, and after that my vision decreased mostly as it is now. So at the moment I'm blind.
Okay, and Niamh is one of 3.
Okay.
So she has an older sister who's 22 and an older brother who's 18 who has autism. So as Niamh said, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor when she was 8, which was a bit of a shock.
Understatement.
We had hoped that it would remain benign, but unfortunately it was her optic nerve was intertwined with the tumor, and it just compromised her optic nerve. So Niamh is blind now.
Yes.
And that was a shock. She had 18 months of chemotherapy, numerous surgeries to insert shunts in her brain in Beaumont and Crumlin. Fabulous staff there. Thank you again to them all. And so it has been a challenge to adapt.
Yeah, I'm sure.
A very long journey.
I'm sure. And tell us, Niamh, in terms of that journey, how have you coped with in terms of getting used to being blind and adapting your life from socializing with your friends down to kind of doing homework, down to changes in the home that have had to be made? How have you juggled all those?
Well, I have to say, at the start it was hard because it was something that was a shock. I was never prepared for it. But I suppose as life goes on, and then you learn different ways to adapt and stuff, ways that it's easier. Like, my life is basically as normal as anyone else's. There are only small things that need to be adapted, and I just live normally.
And tell me, in terms of kind of social and sports and leisure activities and stuff, have you tried new things, or have you made things that you were doing previously and just adapted doing them?
Basically stuff that I did before and I adapted. Like, I used to love reading, and then I just really moved to audiobooks, and I basically did everything that I used to do, and I just adapted it into a new way. There are some things that are different, but I enjoy my life as anyone else does.
Fair play. As we keep saying, it's only a part of you. It doesn't define you or make up who you are. So it's just a question of adapting accordingly. And tell me, have you linked in much with NCBI services in the last number of years?
Well, so far this year I have had technical support and I've had an assessment during my TY year.
We had the Irish Guide Dogs Mobility Service who stepped in, Victoria Elliott, from the very beginning, actually when he was on chemo, and taught her how to cook and, opened our minds to the fact that there were different ways of doing things, because as you can imagine, you don't know where to start or who to ask. So they were absolutely brilliant. And the NCBI, Daniel is great, and Edel, and they're helping us now towards the Leaving Cert to try and get all the technical information and ways of doing things better for Niamh.
And just elaborating a bit more on that kind of the technical side of things, is there much assistive technology you use in school, Niamh?
So I have my laptop, which has JAWS, and that's a screen support that it reads out everything that I type. It's basically learning how to navigate around my laptop using JAWS. I also have my enhancer. So that is basically a machine that you draw with a special marker on a piece of paper, and then it enhances everything, so it's very good for diagrams and maths and stuff. Um, and I have my talking calculator, which I also use for maths, and I'm just learning how to use that at the moment.
And in terms of just those day-to-day activities in the classroom, does it mean that your peers can hear Jaws talking back to you, or do you need a headset, or how does that work in a practical setting?
So I have headphones. I use my headphones for my calculator, and I use my headphones for my laptop, so nobody else they can't hear what I'm doing or anything like that.
However, I'm sure by virtue of the additional technologies that you are using, many of the children and young people in your classroom are learning so much from you on what is available to support you.
Exactly. It's actually quite funny because you're always looking at, oh, what I'm doing on my laptop, I'm able to get my work done quicker because I've just had a lot more experience with my typing and learning with my new talking calculator. That's just extremely helpful for me because I get through things much faster.
Fair play to you. A total credit to your ability to juggle it all. And obviously, as you mentioned, you're in TY now, so you've finished the junior cert. Congratulations. It was certainly tough on the class of 2022 doing the junior cert because it hadn't been done for the last number of years with COVID. But how did you find that situation in an exam setting? And did you need any additional supports, and were they available to you?
Well, it was different because it was my actual first exam, my first big exam. And for additional supports, I had an extra 10 minutes per hour. And then I had breaks if I needed it. That was kind of it. I had a scribe who would read out what was on my paper, and I would tell them what to write. That was kind of it when it came to my exams.
Truthfully, it sounds quite limiting because I'm sure it would take nearly the full 10 minutes for the scribe to read out what was on the exam paper.
Not even that. I have to be very, very specific. When they read out one question, I have to process that question. I must tell them when to start a new paragraph, what pen, and even writing in my name at the start of the exam and getting all the information in and telling me what questions are coming. It's a lot. That 10 minutes is gone completely.
And is that awarded across the board, or was it assessed for you that the 10 minutes was appropriate? What was the origin of the 10 minutes?
It was across the board. That's probably one thing that I have an issue with, is because it seems to be that everybody's painted with the same brush. I wasn't taken into consideration, and nor were my needs. And I just feel that it should be different, the situation, because people have different requirements and how much time they need.
That makes total sense, though. I mean, to be fair, it does seem quite arbitrary. A 10 minutes additional amount of time seems far too little. And admittedly, an audio type of exam may suit some individuals, but not everybody. So what type of specific supports would you like to see in place, particularly for the Leaving Cert? Because obviously the Junior Cert is a precursor to it, essentially. So with your Leaving Cert on the horizon, what additional supports would you specifically like to see for yourself?
Time would be one thing. I am, by getting extra time, I'm not getting an advantage over everyone else. I'm just getting enough time to complete my exam and have a fair chance as everyone. And I think it is different for every single person. My needs are going to be different to another blind person's needs, and what I'm used to, because I have my own way of working in school, and somebody else would too. So I just feel that much more information needs to be explained. There needs to be more guidance.
No diagrams.
No diagrams at all. And just anything, there needs to be a lot more communication.
Adequately modified papers.
Yeah.
And additional time.
Yeah, I mean, and as you rightly say, there's no point asking an individual who is blind to describe a diagram, because that's
or match
yeah.
the diagrams, which is what was presented to Niamh in the junior cert.
And I wasn't aware those situations were going to come up because I was told I was getting adapted papers. So the way I was working in school, it was adapted. I had my teacher, she would write down descriptions instead of pictures, but I was quite shocked when that came up in my junior cert. It was different.
Does adapted papers exist? Do you know?
they're very difficult to get. I don't think so. We have requested for papers for Niamh because she's had to recently choose subjects for her Leaving Cert. And just like everybody else, it would only be fair, in my view, that Niamh could look at typical exam papers and see, what that subject involves, what type of questions are asked. So we asked for some adapted papers specifically for some of the science subjects, and we've been informed to date that there isn't any.
Great. But I mean, like, the reality is Niamh's not the first blind pupil ever to sit an exam. So it seems very inflexible to the needs of people who are blind or vision impaired.
Exactly. And one of the issues that we find is that it's very difficult to find the right person to ask that question who knows the answer. And I have said so many times, Niamh cannot be the first child who's blind to sit the Leaving Cert. Now, for the Junior Cert, it was the first year, as we all know, that new course, was sat as an exam because of COVID. So, understandably, that might have been difficult. But then even if I've asked the question, what type of modifications will be made to papers, I'm still not getting a very concrete answer to that either.
And have you heard from previous blind pupils who have done their Leaving Cert recently to see what adaptations they received, if any?
No, it's very difficult, June, and we are trying to get some help with the NCBI's cooperation to get in touch with students.
Yeah,
there aren't many blind students, and that is understandable, and thank God for that. But at the same time, it's very isolating as a family going through this journey.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And certainly when it was announced recently that they were now going to be piloting digital exam papers, that is certainly a welcome announcement for individuals who can use that medium and maybe potentially magnify the exam paper on a digital screen. But that's suitable for a person who's vision impaired. It's obviously not suitable for Niamh. So
our hopes were raised because that was a fantastic breakthrough, and required, I imagine, an awful lot of work from the Institute, especially FEG, who were absolutely brilliant. And they're breaking ground there because what it's showing is a demonstration for flexibility. So we need that continued, because every student, whether they're visually impaired, blind, dyspraxia, whatever requirements and additional support they need, they're all entitled to it fairly.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, at the end of the day, the exam system is so academically orientated that many children don't even thrive in that kind of environment because it's not supporting how they learn. So the exam system in itself, it can be so rigid in verifying a person's ability that if there's challenges now in how you do the exams, that's even putting people at a further disadvantage.
Absolutely. And when you look, to the UK, and if the information I have is correct, students who are visually impaired or blind get 50% extra time. And I worked out that we get under 17% extra time. They also get a reader, and we should get a reader too. So that's a big difference for a student with the same requirements. And
yes, exactly.
How can we stand by that? As a government, as a country, it's blatantly unfair.
Well, it's just preventing Niamh from demonstrating her ability and thriving in a system that's very rigid.
And also, we promote equality, independence, future. Education can be a real key to that. And in order to help Niamh be independent in the future and not rely on the state, she should be given every chance to fulfill her potential.
It's in the state's best interest to do that as well as Niamh's.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Well, genuinely, if NCBI, from a lobbying perspective, can assist in that way, I'd be more than happy to kind of help out there as well. Because I certainly am hearing loud and clear the level of inequality that the system is presenting to Niamh and to other blind pupils. As you rightly say, it's not just about Niamh's circumstances, it's to benefit all blind pupils who are presently in the system and those coming behind.
Exactly.
And how
the
has the school been?
experience, there's no better information in my view than the lived experience. And that's another thing that we're a little bit frustrated about, because we've been through this one exam. We'd like to help make it better for the people that follow, and our voice needs to be heard.
Exactly, because I always think about it. If someone had done it for me, I wouldn't have had to go through that. So if I'm able to make a difference for somebody else who's going to be doing an exam in the future, I would be more than delighted to do that.
Fair play to you. Yeah. And I genuinely hope that it happens, and it doesn't take an inordinate amount of time in order for that kind of change to occur. And I suppose from your school's perspective, the reality is having a pupil who's blind or vision impaired in the school is quite rare because it's a low incidence disability. So how have you found the school being supportive and understanding the changing needs that you have required?
They've actually been very understanding. They have made an effort to help me. I am always having discussions with my teachers. They help me ask me what is suitable for me, and they try to prepare me before class. So I am well aware of what teacher is talking about. So when I'm in class, I'm not behind anyone, and that when the teacher is, say, drawing a diagram on the board, I'm well aware of what she's drawing, and I am basically in an equal situation as everyone else.
And that's what you want.
Yeah, we've been really lucky. The school has to operate within a system, and they're in lies the issue really. But as you say, it's their first time, and they welcomed us with open arms at the very beginning. And if there are things to be learned or different ways to do things, we work very much as a team.
Brilliant. And I'm guessing you've been paired up with a visiting teacher as well who supports in that way as well. Is that the case?
That's correct. Unfortunately, the resource that visiting teachers have is not great, because they cover so many counties.
Yeah.
They've been very under-resourced, I believe, as well.
True, and I suppose their remit is quite large, both in terms of the volume of pupils that they support and the geographic region that they cover. So
exactly,
it's a crucial piece of the jigsaw to have that role. But I do think that it's so important to have the school to be as inclusive as possible, so that they have a greater ability to respond to your needs, because that's certainly
on a day-to-day basis.
On a day-to-day basis, exactly.
The visiting teacher has been trying to help me catch up on Braille, because that's one thing that we're very far behind in. With COVID, Niamh had no Braille support, obviously. Now, we did have some online, but there's no replacing, as we all know, the face-to-face tuition that we had in school. So Braille is a big part of our catch-up, and Braille papers won't be an option for Niamh realistically, because she's so far behind now.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, the tuition requires, it's such a tactile language that to do it digitally is you're missing out on that.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is a challenge. And I suppose in terms of moving beyond the secondary school system and into the third level or wherever you want to go to, Niamh, do you hope that there will be supports available to you there to make sure that you can thrive in whatever area you want to pursue?
Yes, I have hopes, obviously, for the future. I think we'll see how it goes. I will live life, I hope to live life to the fullest and to get the same opportunities as everyone else, and I'm determined to try my best to do that.
We're going to, again, with the NCBI support, look at the various third level facilities and see, the subjects, obviously, and the accessibility. And we're hoping at some point that Niamh will get a guide dog. She's a long cane user at the moment.
Okay.
So when she's 16, which is this April, we're hoping to try and get that going too.
Brilliant. And obviously you can apply for the Gerard Byrne bursary that we run as well, which is open to students attending a third level institution, and it covers the stipend is €1,500 a year per year for every year that you're doing your undergraduate course.
Brilliant.
So be sure to throw in your application when that becomes available to you. But I suppose for now, just to conclude and ask each of you, what one piece of advice would you give to another student who's been diagnosed with a sight loss condition?
I think, it is hard, but you should always have hope, because no matter what, you will find your way. You will learn how to adapt your life and know that it will be okay. It's important to talk to other people because it is a very isolating experience, but know that other people are going through exactly what you're going through, and that you will have a happy life and you will be able to achieve what you want to do, whether it takes a lot of hard work to get there, but you will get there.
Inspiring words, definitely. Thank you. And Sinead?
Yeah, thank you. I think I'd echo what Niamh said. It's very easy to, get locked into your own situation and not know where to ask for help. So, that's the big learning I think we've had, is to ask for help and don't be afraid to say, look, this isn't working for us. Can we try it a different way?
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose, as we're talking about the education system, the more and more people that kind of raise the flags with them that those supports being offered are not suitable, it has to make the system more flexible, and break down the rigidity of the education structure, because it's just it's an issue that's cropped up so frequently for children, young people who are blind or visually impaired, and yet we still want them all to thrive. And be able to demonstrate the intelligence and the capabilities that they have. So we need to be able to do that. But for now, I'd just like to say thanks very much for joining me today. If anyone is interested in learning more about our services, particularly those that we offer for children, young people, or our bursaries, jump onto our website, ncbi.ie, or our info line is 1800 911 250. All previous episodes of this podcast is available to download on usual platforms, or feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube. So thanks very much, ladies.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely weekend. Thanks, June.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.